Consistency at its core is not simply about repeating an action over and over. It is about the formation of identity. Too often we think of consistency only in terms of outcomes, how going to the gym every day leads to a stronger body, or how practicing a skill daily leads to mastery. Those are true, but they are surface-level truths. The deeper reality is that what you do consistently becomes who you are. Every repeated choice is a vote cast in favor of the person you are becoming. When you decide to wake up early and work, you are not just finishing a task. You are telling yourself, I am someone who values discipline. When you choose to study instead of procrastinate, you are not just preparing for an exam, you are declaring, I am someone who invests in my growth. Over time, these choices accumulate, not just in results, but in the shaping of character. This is why consistency is so powerful. It is less about the goal and more about the process of becoming. If you only chase results, you might grow frustrated when progress seems slow or invisible. But if you focus on consistent action, you are building the kind of identity that naturally produces results. The person who runs daily may not immediately see a transformation in their body, but what changes first is their self-image. They begin to see themselves as a runner. And once identity shifts, behavior becomes much easier to sustain because you no longer act against yourself, you act in alignment with who you believe you are. Philosophically, this idea touches on something profound. We are not defined by what we think or by what we wish. We are defined by what we repeatedly do. Aristotle famously observed that excellence is not an act, but a habit. And habits are nothing more than consistency solidified into identity. If you want to change your life, you must begin by changing what you do consistently, because those actions will slowly, almost invisibly, rewire your sense of self. Of course, this demands patience. Identity is not formed in a week or a month, it is carved out over years. Just as water shapes stone, your daily behaviors shape your character. The irony is that most people underestimate the significance of this. They look for the dramatic breakthrough, the one defining moment that will change everything. But the truth is that your defining moment is happening every day in the small, ordinary actions you repeat when no one is watching. So when we speak about success, we must recognize that it is not a prize handed out at the finish line, but the natural consequence of being the kind of person who stays true to consistent effort. Every choice is a stroke of the chisel shaping your identity. And if you stay consistent, you will not only achieve goals, you will become someone greater than the goals themselves. The question, then, is simple yet profound. What identity are you building through your actions today? Motivation is often romanticized as the driving force behind achievement. We wait for it, we chase it, we try to capture that spark of inspiration that makes work feel effortless. But the truth is, motivation is unreliable. It rises and falls with our moods, with the weather, with how much sleep we've had, or whether life feels favorable at that moment. If we tie our progress to motivation, we doom ourselves to inconsistency, because no one can rely on fleeting bursts of emotion to sustain long-term success. What separates those who achieve extraordinary things from those who stop halfway is not motivation, it is discipline. Discipline is the anchor of consistency. It is the choice to act not because you feel like it, but because you said you would. Discipline does not wait for inspiration, it moves forward regardless of emotional state. Think of the writer who writes on days when the words flow easily, and also on days when the page feels painfully blank. Or the athlete who trains not only when their body feels light and energetic, but also when fatigue presses heavily against every step. These individuals are not driven primarily by how they feel in the moment, they are driven by a commitment to a process. That is discipline. Psychologically, discipline liberates us from the tyranny of moods. If you only act when you feel like it, then you are enslaved by your emotions, and your destiny is at the mercy of circumstance. But discipline elevates you above that. It is the declaration that you are not simply a creature of impulse. You are capable of choice, of deliberate action, of honoring a commitment to yourself. In this way, discipline is a profound act of self-respect. It is saying, I will keep my word to myself, even when it is inconvenient, even when it is uncomfortable. Philosophically, discipline represents the triumph of the will over the temporary whims of desire. Friedrich Nietzsche spoke of the long obedience in the same direction as the foundation of greatness. That obedience is not blind submission, but a conscious alignment of effort with purpose. Motivation asks, do I feel like it today? Discipline answers, it doesn't matter. I move forward because I must. And what is the result of such discipline? Over time, it breeds a quiet but unstoppable momentum. While those who depend on motivation move in erratic bursts, progressing when they feel inspired and stalling when they do not, the disciplined individual advances steadily, step after step, day after day. And in the long run, steady movement will always outrun erratic bursts. Success does not go to the one who burns brightest for a moment, but to the one who endures. So the next time you catch yourself waiting for motivation, remind yourself that motivation is a guest. It comes and goes as it pleases. Discipline is a companion. It stays with you for life if you choose it. And if you choose it, you will discover that consistency is no longer a struggle, but simply the natural rhythm of who you are becoming. The question is, will you continue waiting for motivation to visit, or will you commit to discipline and walk steadily toward the life you know you are capable of creating? One of the greatest misunderstandings about success is that it arrives through one monumental effort, a single defining act that changes everything. We imagine breakthroughs as sudden, dramatic moments, the invention that changes an industry overnight, the performance that catapults someone into fame, the decision that instantly transforms a life. But reality works differently. What looks like an overnight success is almost always the visible tip of a much larger, invisible process. And that process is the quiet accumulation of small, consistent actions compounded over time. Think of how nature itself operates. A seed does not become a tree in a single burst of growth. It grows incrementally, quietly, steadily, layer upon layer, until one day it towers above the ground. Likewise, rivers carve valleys not through forceful explosions of energy, but through the patient, repeated flow of water over centuries. In the same way, your consistent actions may seem small, even insignificant in the moment, but they are reshaping your life in ways you cannot always perceive. Each day of effort compounds with the last, and over time, the results become extraordinary. The problem is that the human mind often struggles to appreciate this compounding effect. We are impatient by nature. We want visible progress immediately. When it doesn't come, we assume our efforts don't matter. But here's the truth: every repetition matters. Every day you show up adds weight to the scale, even if you cannot see it yet. Skipping a single effort may feel inconsequential, but consistency is built on the principle that each small act accumulates. It is like saving money. On its own, a single dollar doesn't make you wealthy. But compounded daily over years, it builds a fortune. Success in any area of life follows the same principle. Philosophically, this is a lesson in humility and faith. Humility, because you must accept that greatness is not achieved in grand gestures, but in the ordinary actions repeated faithfully. Faith, because you must trust that your efforts are working long before you see tangible proof. This is why so many people give up too soon. They plant seeds, and when nothing sprouts immediately, they abandon the soil. Yet those who persist, who keep watering the ground without visible reward, are the ones who eventually harvest abundance. The beauty of the compound effect is that it works in both directions. Just as small positive actions accumulate into remarkable success, small neglects accumulate into devastating failure. Missing one workout doesn't matter, missing 100 does. Procrastinating one day doesn't ruin you, procrastinating for years does. Every small choice sets into motion a trajectory, either upward toward growth or downward toward decay. So when you think about success, do not focus on the dramatic moment you imagine will change your life. Focus instead on the seemingly ordinary habits that build invisible momentum each day. Because one day, when enough layers of effort have been laid down, the world will see what you have been building all along. The question is, will the compound effect of your actions work for you or against you? Consistency reveals its true value not when life is easy, but when life becomes difficult. Anyone can remain steady when circumstances are favorable, when energy is high, and when success feels close at hand. But what happens when you face failure? When your efforts seem to collapse? When the progress you've worked so hard for suddenly disappears? This is where most people abandon the path. They mistake setbacks as signs that they are not meant to succeed. But in reality, setbacks are not the enemy of consistency, they are the testing ground of it. Failure in itself is not final. It is feedback. It is life's way of revealing the gaps in your preparation, the weaknesses in your approach, and the lessons you must still learn. Yet too often, people interpret failure as an indictment of their worth. They allow a single mistake, a rejection, or a loss to convince them that the entire journey was meaningless. But if you look closer, the individuals who achieve great things are not those who avoided failure. They are those who refuse to let failure have the last word. Resilience is the bridge between failure and consistency. It is the ability to return again and again to the pursuit of your goal, even when circumstances suggest you should give up. Resilience says, I will not let this moment define me, I will define myself by how I respond to it. This response, repeated over time, becomes the essence of consistency. You fall, you rise. You break, you rebuild. You stumble, and yet you continue walking. And in that rhythm of falling and rising, You carve out strength far greater than if you had never stumbled at all. Philosophically, failure is not an obstacle on the path to success. It is part of the path itself. To wish for success without setbacks is to wish for growth without challenge, strength without resistance, wisdom without experience. A muscle cannot grow without strain. A character cannot deepen without hardship. The consistency that endures through failure is the kind that transforms you into someone unshakable. Psychologically, this requires reframing how you view setbacks. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" ask, "What is this teaching me?" Instead of seeing failure as a wall, see it as a mirror reflecting back what must be adjusted. The moment you adopt this perspective, failure ceases to be something to fear. It becomes something to learn from. And if you consistently rise after every fall, your failures begin to serve you rather than stop you. In the end, success does not belong to the one who never faltered, but to the one who refused to stay down. Resilience in the face of failure is what proves your commitment to the journey. Because anyone can keep going when the path is smooth, but only the consistent can endure when it is broken. So remember this: your failures do not define you, your persistence does. Consistency demands more than effort, it demands focus. You can be hardworking, determined, even disciplined, but if your energy is scattered in 100 different directions, the impact of your work diminishes. Progress requires concentration, the ability to channel your attention into what truly matters while letting go of what is trivial. In a world saturated with distractions, the rarest skill is not talent or intelligence, it is the capacity to sustain focus over time. Distraction is seductive because it often disguises itself as productivity. You can fill your day with endless activity, answering messages, jumping between tasks, consuming information, yet accomplish nothing of substance. This is because true progress is not about how much you do, but about how consistently you direct your energy toward the essential. To be consistent in action, you must be consistent in clarity, knowing which pursuits align with your purpose and which are merely noise. Philosophically, this comes down to the question of value. Every moment of attention is a form of investment. When you give time to something, you are declaring, consciously or unconsciously, that it matters to you. But if your attention is stolen by distractions, by fleeting pleasures, shallow validation, or meaningless business, you are pouring your energy into what will never yield real return. Consistency without focus is like running on a treadmill. You expend energy, but go nowhere. This is why elimination is as important as persistence. To stay consistent, you must decide what you will not pursue, what you will not entertain, what you will no longer allow to fragment your attention. Greatness is born not only from what you add to your life, but from what you subtract. The person who achieves mastery in any field is rarely the one who dabbled in everything. They are the one who cut away distractions and devoted themselves fully to what mattered most. Psychologically, focus also requires resisting the allure of novelty. Our minds are wired to chase stimulation, to seek out new opportunities, new pleasures, new tasks. But novelty, unchecked, scatters the will. To be consistent means to accept that the path to success is often repetitive, even monotonous. It is not always exciting. But it is in that very monotony, in the willingness to repeat what is essential day after day, that true progress is made. Those who can resist the pull of distraction and instead immerse themselves fully in their chosen pursuit eventually outpace everyone else. So, consistency is not just about showing up. It is about showing up with focus. It is about protecting your attention as though it were your most valuable resource, because it is. What you focus on consistently shapes not only your results, but the very direction of your life. The truth is simple: if you focus on everything, you achieve nothing. But if you focus on what truly matters and stay consistent in that focus, there is almost nothing you cannot achieve. Time has a way of humbling every ambition. It reveals what is real and what is fleeting. Talent may impress for a season, intelligence may dazzle for a moment, and opportunity may appear like a sudden burst of light. But none of these alone guarantees success. What time ultimately rewards is consistency, the steady, deliberate effort that endures long after the initial excitement has faded. Success is not the product of speed, nor is it the gift of brilliance. It is the outcome of those who simply refuse to stop showing up. The world loves to glorify sudden brilliance, the stories of overnight success. But when you look closer, those moments are never truly overnight. They are the culmination of years of unseen work, of countless days where someone kept moving forward while no one was watching. Time does not reward those who burn brightly for a moment and then fade. It rewards those who keep the flame alive day after day, even if it burns quietly. The individual who endures, who embraces time as an ally rather than an enemy, will eventually surpass those who relied on raw talent alone. Philosophically, this reminds us that greatness is not an event. It is a process stretched across years. To desire instant results is to misunderstand the nature of growth. A tree cannot be forced to maturity in a week. Its strength comes from the seasons it endures, from the storms it withstands, from the years it spends silently rooting itself into the ground. In the same way, consistency requires patience. It demands that you trust time, even when progress seems invisible. Psychologically, this is perhaps the greatest challenge. We live in a culture addicted to immediacy, instant communication, instant entertainment, instant gratification. But real achievement is not instant, it is gradual, almost imperceptible at first. This is why so many give up too soon. They mistake slow progress for no progress. Yet time has a way of compounding effort in ways the impatient cannot see. Those who endure discover that the results, when they finally arrive, are exponential, not incremental. And here is the paradox: when you align yourself with time, when you accept that consistency compounded across years is the true engine of success, you find freedom. You are no longer in a frantic rush to achieve everything tomorrow. You can work steadily, calmly, knowing that each day of effort is a seed planted, and that time, if you remain faithful, will eventually deliver the harvest. So do not curse time for being slow, bless it for being just. Time is not against you. It is waiting to reward your persistence, to magnify your small, consistent actions into something extraordinary. The truth is simple yet profound: talent fades, motivation wavers, opportunities come and go, but time always crowns the consistent.